You want mods that feel amazing and still make mechanical sense. Start with this: a Mk7 GTI on fresh, ultra-high performance tires stops a full car length shorter and turns in like it lost 500 pounds. It's simple: contact and control. We're breaking down 15 common-sense, mechanic-approved upgrades that make every drive better, with real cars, daily commuters, V8 muscle, and hot hatches. Costs and DIY ratings included. We'll call out engines where the gains are real, and the ones that will kill your car and your wallet. Part 1. Contact and control. Feel it in the wheel. Tires first, always. You might not think of tires as a mod, but it will feel like one when you step up to a 300 treadwear summer tire and they transform the chassis. You feel sharper initial bite, less ABS chatter, and earlier throttle on corner exit because the diff can actually work. On a Honda Civic 2, NA Daily, premium all-seasons cut wet stopping distance and keep steering linear. On a Mustang GT Coyote, better rubber finally lets the rear hook without relying on traction control to babysit. Just have a shop mount and balance. The feel per dollar here is unmatched. Speaking of feel, lightweight wheels are next. A Fiesta ST 1.6T drops real unsprung and rotational mass with quality flow-formed wheels. What you notice isn't just quicker acceleration, it's calmer damping over broken pavement and faster steering return to center. A Toyota Corolla 2 Daily gets the same benefit: less crashy, more composed. A Camaro SSLT. One loves it because the brakes run cooler and the front end stops tramlining. Plan 800 to 2 grand. DIY 2 out of 5. Torque the lugs properly and you've just sharpened every input. Brake confidence is what keeps you in the throttle longer. Braided stainless brake lines plus fresh performance fluid on a Hyundai Veloster N-Lock in pedal feel on steep downhill runs where stock rubber lines swell. A Mazda 3 2.5 Daily gets a firmer, more consistent bite in traffic heat. A Challenger R/T 5.7 benefits even more because heavy cars cook fluid fast. Lines run 120 to 250 and fluid is 20 to 40. DIY is 3 out of 5 since you'll bleed the system. The upgrade is small in parts, big in trust. Pads and rotors seal that braking package. On a Civic Type R FK8K20C1, a street-focused ceramic or hybrid pad with slotted rotors holds friction without the glassy fade you feel after a few hard stops. A Subaru Impreza 2. Daily gains consistent modulation in the rain. A Mustang GT stops repeatedly without smelling like cooked resin. Expect 200 to 600. DIY 3 out of 5 if you're comfortable with calipers and bedding. The trick is picking a compound that balances bite, rotor wear, and noise. No need to go track only for the street. Roll control is where you unlock rotation without punishing ride. A rear sway bar upgrade on a Mazda 3 Turbo takes out factory understeer and sharpens mid-corner balance. It's the nudge that lets you neutral steer with your right foot. A Kia Forte Daily gets more predictable transitions in roundabouts. A Charger Scat Pack 6.4 uses the bar to offset that big engine nose, so the rear follows cleanly. 150 to 350, DIY 2 out of 5. Simple bolts, torque to spec. Keep the front bar stock if you want rotation. Now, lock the geometry. Polyurethane bushings in the front. Control arms and anti-roll bar mounts remove the mush that lets alignment wander under load. A Fiesta ST stops nibbling at the wheel over mid-corner bumps. A Camry 2.5 Daily tracks aero straight under braking because caster and toe aren't walking around. A Camaro SS front end stays planted when you turn and brake at the same time. Parts run 100 to 300. DIY 3 out of 5. Some cars need a press, so budget shop time if needed. You will feel a touch more NVH, but the steering honesty is worth it. I put lower control arm bushings on my Lexus, and not only was steering improved, but it completely solved the inner tire wear problem. For $350, I saved my tires and made the car more sporty. Highly recommend. Let's pull these together with a quick pattern check. Notice how each upgrade either increases the tire's ability to generate force or improves your confidence using that force. Tires raise the ceiling. Lightweight wheels and bushings lower inertia and slop, so the chassis reacts now, not later. Brake lines, pads, and rotors make deceleration predictable, which lets you carry speed where it's safe. The rear bar rotates the car so you steer with smaller inputs, and the result is the same across segments. The GTI's EA888 can put power down earlier. The Civic Daily stops truer in the wet, and the Mustang's Coyote stops painting one long black line off every corner. That's the contact and control package. From here, we'll make clean power and manage heat. But before we open the hood in part 2, check your torque wrench and your alignment sheet. Set your tire pressures, schedule a proper alignment after bushings and bars, and bed those pads the right way. Do that, and you've already built a car that feels faster, safer, and more alive without touching the engine. Yet. Part 2. Clean power and thermal control. Make the engine breathe and survive. Okay, pop the hood. Clean power is simple. Colder, denser air in. Stable fluids and temps. Less gunk on valves, controlled back pressure, and exhaust that flows without drone. The payoff is repeatable performance you can trust on a hot day. We'll hit real engines that respond big, costs, and DIY ratings so you can plan your weekend. Start with an oil catch can on direct injected motors. The Mk7 GTI's EA888 Gen 3 and GM's LT1 in the Camaro. Both blow oily vapor that never sees a port injector to wash valves. A good can trims that mist before it bakes on. Result: steadier idle, less knock correction, and timing you can hold when it's hot. E888 owners notice the mid-range stays crisp past 60,000 miles. LT1s show fewer learned retard events on long pulls. Figure 120 to 250, DIY 2 out of 5. Mount it solid, root hoses clean, and empty it every oil change. I installed a catch can from RR Racing, and when I emptied out that dirty oil, I knew it was worth it. It cost less than $200 and was well worth it by keeping that dirty oil out of the engine. Heat kills timing. An upgraded aluminum radiator on a Focus ST2T or an Accord 1.5T improves heat rejection so the ECU doesn't pull power after a few hard runs. The tanks won't crack like plastic, and the thicker core sheds heat between pulls. Mustang GT owners who track without factory cooling use this as a base, then match oil and trans cooling for a balanced setup. Budget $300 to $700, DIY 3 out of 5. Drain, swap, burp the system, verify the fan cycles. The engine is a furnace. A better radiator is a bigger chimney. Worried about turbos that everyone says will break? Well, turbo cars love a front-mount intercooler. The Veloster N heat soaks after 2 back-to-back pulls on stock hardware. A quality core drops intake temps, so the next run feels like the first. The Mazda CX-5 2.5T tows, or climbs grades with torque that stays flat instead of rolling over. If you're prepping a Challenger 5.7 for a supercharger, plan the intercooler path now, so charge temps stay in check later. Cost is $350 to $900. DIY 3 out of 5. Trim carefully, seat couplers, and pressure test so you're not chasing boost leaks. Keep intake air cool and clean. A high-flow dry panel filter in the GR Corolla's G16E GTS keeps the MAF happy while letting the turbo breathe. Pair it with a sealed snorkel so you're pulling from the grill, not a hot bay. On a Corolla 2. Daily, you won't gain peak power, but you'll sharpen throttle and keep temps down in traffic. Chargers with the 6.4 benefit from a sealed box that feeds real ambient air. 60 to 180, DIY 1 out of 5. No oiling, no sensor drama. Where legal, a catted downpipe or high-flow mid-pipe reduces back pressure without tossing emissions. The Mk7 GTI spools earlier with a proper tune on a high-flow cat, which flattens the torque curve and reduces exhaust manifold heat. On a Camaro SS, a freer mid-pipe pairs with headers for a torque bump you feel from 2,500 RPM up. 400 to 1,200, DIY 3 out of 5. Rust, heat, and seized hardware are the fight. Use penetrant and new gaskets. Now, exhaust tone without the headache. A resonated performance system on a Fiesta ST frees, revs and trims pumping losses, so part throttle feels livelier. An Accord 2T Daily keeps the cabin civil at 70 miles per hour if you choose a system with a mid-resonator. A Mustang GT gets that deeper coyote bark but avoids highway drone when the system is balanced. 400 to 1,500, DIY 2 out of 5 with clamp fit kits. Line up the tips, snug from front to back, then final torque. Here's the thread tying these together. Lower intake temps mean denser charge, which means less timing pulled. Cleaner valves mean stable tumble and burn, which means more consistent torque. Lower back pressure reduces heat load on turbines and valves. Better radiators widen your lap-after-lap window. Notice how each choice helps the ECU keep the map you paid for instead of defending the engine from heat and contamination. Before we flash anything, do 2 quick sanity checks. 1. Verify no boost leaks after the intercooler and intake work. 2. Log coolant and intake temps on a warm day to confirm the radiator and airflow are doing their job. If those baselines look good, your tune in Part 3 won't be fighting heat or deposits. It'll be optimizing a healthy system. That's clean power, and it feels effortless every time you mat the throttle. Part 3. Calibration and drivetrain. Make inputs. Snap. You've cooled it, fed it clean air, and freed the flow. Now we calibrate the brain and tighten the links between your right foot and the tires. This is where safe power shows up as control. We'll hit real platforms, call out where the big gains live, and keep the costs and DIY clear. Start with a conservative Stage 1 ECU tune. Turbo cars see the biggest returns because you're optimizing boost, timing, and throttle logic for the fuel you actually run. On a Mk7 GTI's EA888, a quality 91 or 93 map, delivers that broad torque plateau from 2,000 to 4,500 RPM without knock chisel. You feel less surge, more linear pull. On 2T daily crossovers, the same approach cleans throttle lag and trims downshifts because the torque request matches reality. The surprise is the 2018 plus Mustang GT's Gen 3 Coyote. Even NA, a careful calibration sharpens pedal mapping, advances timing where it's safe, and removes torque management delays so the car feels lighter off the line without weird flare. Cost is $400 to $900, DIY 2 out of 5 with a handheld or app-based flash. The rule: run the octane you select, log a few pulls, and keep it conservative for longevity. Shift logic is next for automatics and dual clutches. Factory maps favor comfort and emissions. You want crisp, not harsh. On a DSG GTI, a TCU update raises clutch pressure, refines launch control, and holds the right gear through a corner instead of upshifting mid-apex. The car stops second-guessing you. A 10-speed Accord daily benefits from smarter part throttle gear selection, less hunting on grades, and cleaner lockup that sheds heat. On a Mustang 10R80, a reputable tune removes flare on wide-open shifts, firms engagement, and sets a temperature-conscious strategy so the unit lives. Expect 300 to 700, DIY 2 out of 5 via flash. This is feel and durability in one change. If you row your own, make shifting a precision move. A short throw shifter and solid bushings reduce slop and center the gates. The BRZ/GR86FA24 calms that stock notchiness and turns heel toe into a habit. A Civic 6 MT gains clearer lateral definition, so fast 2 to 3 upshifts stop clipping fifth. A Camaro SS6 MT cleans high RPM shifts when synchros aren't fighting rubbery linkage. Costs run $80 to $350, DIY 2 out of 5. Grease the pivots, torque it to spec, and recheck after a week. The payoff is fewer missed shifts and a grin every time you grab the next gear. Lock the powertrain with upgraded engine and transmission mounts. Wheel hop and delayed throttle are energy loss to compliance. A Fiesta ST with a stouter rear motor mount plants launches and lets the turbo spool without the drivetrain slamming stops. A Corolla Daily gets crisper on-off throttle in traffic, which actually feels smoother because it's predictable. A Challenger 6.4 firms shifts under load so the rear doesn't step when the torque hits. Plan 150 to 500, DIY 3 out of 5. You'll pick up some NVH, choose street durometer parts for balance. Put the torque where it matters with a limited slip differential if your trim didn't get one. This is the single biggest traction transformation outside tires. A Civic Si rockets out of tight corners because the inside wheel stops lighting up and the diff biases torqueway to the loaded side. A base Mazda 3 stops spinning away rain-soaked starts. A 2015 base Mustang GT ends the one-tire fire and digs hard in second. 700 to 1500 plus install. DIY 4 out of 5 with special tools and setup knowledge. If you're not seasoned, pay a pro. Gear mesh matters. Finish with an alignment tuned for performance street use. You're balancing tire life with response. On a Golf R, modest front negative camber and near zero toe, sharpen turn-in, and keep shoulders from chewing on spirited drives. A Camry daily feels locked in on the freeway with a neutral toe setup. You'll notice the difference in any car. A Charger calms tram lining and tracks straight, even on wider rubber. Figure 100 to 250, DIY 1 out of 5 because you need a proper machine. Ask for printouts and verify the tech hits your requested targets. Here's the pattern. Tunes align the ECU's expectations with real airflow and octane. Transmission logic, or shifter hardware, removes delay between intent and action. Mounts stop the driveline from soaking up your inputs. LSDs turn wheel spin into forward motion. Alignment ensures the tire's contact patch is pointed where you're steering. Each step compounds the last. Do them on a healthy, cooled, sealed engine, and the car stops arguing with you. It just goes. That's input snapping. Predictable, fast, and addicting. Part 4. The 5 mods that will kill your car and drain your wallet. Why they're unsafe and expensive. Now for the landmines. These look tempting, but they stress systems the factory engineered to work together. I'll call out where the failures pile up fastest and what it really costs. Extreme camber and stance ruin the contact patch. On a daily like an Accord or Camry, you're riding the inner inch of tread, so you hydroplane sooner and cook wheel bearings because loads shift off-center. Chargers and Challengers suffer even more thanks to weight. ABS and ESC can misread grip in a panic stop. The real tell is cords showing on the inside shoulder with tread left outside. Then the bill hits, a set of tires, bearings, and another alignment. Again, even if you can DIY at 3 out of 5, the geometry loss isn't worth it. Cheap, no-name coilovers are next. WRX and GTI owners see it a lot. Bad valving turns the car into a pogo stick, so the tire skates over bumps and loses traction. On heavier muscle, like a Mustang or Challenger, weak top hats and thin shafts start mushrooming towers or cracking mounts. Leaking seals, seized adjusters, and corrosion show up fast. You then buy tires again, chase clunks, and maybe pay for bodywork around the strut hats. DIY might be 3 out of 5, but the false economy is brutal. Aggressive burble and pop tunes dump raw fuel into the exhaust. BMW B58 and N55 owners have melted catalytic substrates doing this. VWEA 888 turbos see overheated turbine housings and failed O2 sensors. Coyotes can superheat cats and stress exhaust valves. You're trading exhaust fireworks for real heat loading where you don't want it. When a cat goes, think 4 figures each, and now you're fighting readiness monitors. A 1 out of 5 flash install hides a 5 out of 5 repair. Open element hot air intakes without a heat shield hurt power. Civic 1.5T and WR XFA 20 platforms pull timing in traffic because intake temps spike, and MAF turbulence makes fueling messy. EA 888 GTIS feels strong on a cold morning, then soggy at noon because the ECUS protecting itself. Add an oiled filter and you risk MAF contamination. The gain is mostly noise. The cost is detonation risk and long-term wear. 2 out of 5 to install, but the outcome's bad. Heavy replica wheels finish the list. Gravity cast copies add big unsprung weight and can be brittle. A Mustang GT or Charger on cheap 20s hammers bearings and hubs, lengthens stopping distances, and may crack on potholes. GTI and SI can attest to see tram lining and slower steering. A failed rim at speed isn't just a bill, it's a tow and possible body damage. 2 out of 5 to bolt on, but you're bolting on risk as well. Remember the mechanics rule. If it looks like a shortcut or a party trick, it's probably stressing the system. Choose balanced, tested parts, and your car will thank you every mile. So, clean power, solid cooling, tight control, honest calibration, powerful but sensible mods. Your car feels better and faster because it works with you, not against you. Want proven setups by segment? Subscribe. Then watch the next breakdown where we map complete upgrade paths for your daily, your V8, or your hot hatch and save you money doing it.